everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and it's tier list time yet again. In today's tier list, we are going to be taking a look at every Discover card in Hearthstone history. This was suggested in the comments before, and yeah, we're going to take a look at every card. This was introduced during the League of Explorers, and has been in the game ever since. We're not going to include cards that create other cards that Discover cards, like Evil Miscreant or any Lackey generating card can create, like Ethereal Lackey, Draconic Lackey. We're not going to have stuff like that, but we're going to have every single card here actually discovers a card, except for one. There is one on this list, we'll get to it, that doesn't. But I do want to start off by just, as a side note, just to thank each and every one of you who keeps tuning into my videos, who keeps hitting that sub button. It's been an incredible journey. We've been doing this for like less than 8 months, and we are getting close to 10,000 subscribers. We're like 9.6 something. It's incredible. Around 60% of you aren't yet subscribed, but that number keeps on dropping, and I'm humbled. It's amazing. I can't believe the support that keeps on coming. It's been an emotional year. It's been a rough year. 2020 has sucked, but I mean, this channel for me has just been a beacon of like hope and positivity for me, and it's been amazing. And if we can get to 10,000 subscribers by next Sunday, I have the largest tier list ever planned, well over 200 cards. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do, and we'll have that insane tier list ready for you guys next week. But anyways, let's take a look at every single Discover card in Hearthstone history. And again, these were introduced during the League of Explorers and have been in the game ever since. We're going to rate them from tier S through F, S being God tier, auto-include in like almost every deck, and F being unplayable trash that maybe sometimes you'll take in an arena. So let's get going. Before we get started, it's just interesting to note, Discover's gone through a lot of stuff. The Discover bonus nerf happened. There's basically, it was more likely to get class options, and that went away. That became a non-thing. And another interesting thing to note is that you can no longer discover a card from itself. So like Renew can't get Renew. So there's been a bunch of different nerfs that have happened to Discover over the years that have changed the rating of some of these cards that used to be really good, but these nerfs actually dialed it down a lot. So first, we have a Paladin card, a Light in the Darkness. It's a 2-mana spell. Discover a minion, give it +1/+1. One of the rare Discover cards is absolutely terrible. Never saw any competitive play. 2 mana to gain a minion and only give it +1/+1. Just historically, not very good. I'm actually going to start with an F, which is quite surprising considering how good Discover cards are. Next, we have another Paladin Discover card, a new Challenger. Discover a 6-cost minion. Summon with Taunt, Divine Shield. Again, another Paladin card that didn't see much play, but I'll put it a bit above the last one. It saw a little bit of play in like the big dual Paladin. That deck was never very good, but this card in itself isn't the worst thing in the world. Divine Shield, Taunt, 6-drops are okay. You can give your Sunwalker Divine Shield and Taunt, and that's pretty powerful. But overall, yeah, not particularly great, but I'm not willing to give it quite the S level. We have a Pexus Smuggler, a Mage minion. It's a 2-mana 2/3 epic after you play a Secret Discover spell. This has basically never seen play. I mean, it's premium stats, potential infinite value, like Chain Secrets into all that, but hasn't really fit into any archetype at all. Secret Mage doesn't care about value, and all the value decks, there's better value options. So honestly, again, I won't give it an F because it's not horrendously bad, but at the same time, it just hasn't really found a home ever. Next, we have another Mage Discover card. It's Arcane Breath, 1-mana spell. Deal 2 damage to a minion if you're holding a dragon, discover a spell. Incredibly powerful card. We've seen it see play recently in Tempo Mage, Reno Mage. In Wild, we have Reno Quest Mage runs it. Any deck that Mage and Dragons go together, it's good early removal plus discovering a spell is extremely powerful. Not quite S tier, but very flexible, very good card. Hell, I've seen people run this without Dragons just for the removal of it. It's a very solid card. Next, we have Arcane Dynamo. This is a neutral minion. It's a 6-mana 3/4, terrible stats. Battlecry, discover a spell that costs 5 or more. Really bad card for the most part. I think I saw it see play in like a mech paladin where people try to high roll getting the legendary like Kangor spell because there's not very many high cost paladin spells. Outside of that, not really at all, but I did see a little bit of play. And, you know, I think Shaman could use it too because there's a lot of good AoEs. I'll give it a C, but overall, very weak card. We have Arcane Keysmith, 4 mana 2/2 Mage Epic Minion. Battlecry, discover Spear Secret put in the battlefield. Really good card for Mage. You still see play today in like Reno Quest Mage, Reno, just regular Reno Mage. Good with like copying the effect of it. And when it was in Standard, it saw a bit of play for sure. I mean, getting a secret out there was good. There's synergies with like Effigy, with like Duplicate, getting other ice blocks, or just, you know, Counterspell could be really strong. So I'll give it an A. It still sees play in WoW today, and it's a 4-mana 2/2. So that should tell you how powerful that effect is. Next, we have Arch Thief Rafam, 9 mana, 7/8, legendary, terrible stats. It's neutral. Battlecry, discover a powerful artifact. And these artifacts was like give a minion +10/+10, get a board of mummies of 3/3s, or deal 10 damage randomly amongst enemies. This card has never seen realistic competitive play ever, because the 9 mana 7/8 is bad, and the 10 mana options don't really let you live while playing it. But he was not the worst thing in the world. Good arena pick, and I mean, you could justify him in a really greedy, like maybe a Reno lock deck potentially. But overall, very, very weak. We'll give him a C, but not quite an F. Next, we have Archivist Elysiana, another neutral legendary. It's a 9 mana 7/7, and Battlecry. Discover 5 cards and you put 2 copies of them into your deck. So you replace your deck with it, so you get 10 cards in your deck, and this was a staple. It was 8 mana originally, now 9 mana. It was a staple in like control decks. So you had Control Warrior. There's like Shutterwalk Shaman could run it, because you could Shutterwalk Elysiana, get the ultimate fatigue value. Even Priest decks ran it. After Discover was nerfed and you no longer could get like good class options, this card became bad. Also, with all the infinite value generators in the game, fatigue is just not a realistic game plan anymore. But it had its run of terror. I'll give it a B, but not quite the, you know, the meta-defining card it used to be. It still pops up here and there, though, don't get me wrong. Next, we have Athletic Studies. 1 mana, discover a card for Warrior. You discover Rush, meaning your next one costs 1 less. This card's pretty damn good. Doesn't see a ton of play in Warrior, but you see it in, like, Big Warrior right now. Monsanto hit rank 1 Legend with, like, a different Enraged Warrior that ran this card. It's just good. Rush minions are good, and you get to mana cheat them out. There's, like, a bug with, like, Imprisoned Vile Fiend as well that lets you cheat that out, and like you get to keep your discount. So yeah, I mean, it's a solid card. It's really good. I would imagine it'll pick up in play as more Rush minions are made, or as more people realize how strong this card is. I'm gonna give it an A. It's a very strong study card. Next, we have Azure Explorer. It's a Mage Dragon, 4 mana 2/3, spell damage +2, Battlecry, discover a dragon. So spell damage is really good. Discovering a dragon's really good. Having dragon synergies is really good, but this card doesn't see a lot of play in Mage. It's really surprising. Even like Reno Mage in Standard, like the Highlander Mage that likes dragons, typically doesn't run Azure Explorer. But it's not a bad card. It pops up in lists here and there. Spell damage can be relevant. Getting a dragon is good. Having a dragon in hand is good. I'll give it a B, but yeah, it's not as meta-defining as you would think. Next, we have Blazing Invocation, 1 mana Shaman spell. Discover a Battlecry minion. Never really saw play in Shaman. You just have better options. And like 1 mana, when you're spending 1 mana to do something, it typically isn't enough just to get a minion. So you just get a Battlecry minion. This was more of like a spell that was generated off of a lackey, or you would get it off Hagatha or something. It wasn't really something you'd put in your deck ever. But again, not the worst card in the world. I'll give it a C, not quite an F. So we have Bloodscalp Strategist, 3 mana 2/4 Hunter minion. Battlecry, if you have a weapon equipped, discover a spell. Not particularly that strong. It's kind of clunky. You need to have a weapon up, and then you get a spell, and Hunter spells could be hit and miss, especially when this card came out. There's just better cards to play. There was a secret Hunter list that did run this, I believe, and it did alright, but overall it fell out for other cards pretty quickly, and really hasn't seen the light of day in either Standard or Wild since then. Well, it's not in Standard anymore, but you know what I mean. Not the best card, but saw some play. I mean, getting a spell isn't bad, but having a weapon equipped wasn't as easy as you would think at a lot of the time. Next, we have Body Wrapper. This is a neutral epic, 4 mana 4/4. Battlecry, discover a friendly minion that died this game, shuffle it into your deck. This is like an Ultra Greed card, like it'd be good against Fatigue. I remember I was helping Gamer RVG for his Master Tour qualifying. I was the Control Warrior expert at the time, and he's like, what's the greediest card I could put in my deck for the mirror? And I told him, Body Wrappers, run Body Wrappers. And he won that Masters Tour qualifier because he outgreeded the other Control Warriors. Other than that, I don't know anybody who ever ran this card. It's super greedy, really bad, not good at all. I'm going to give it an F. It just has really never seen meta play, but I do have that one story, so I thought I'd share it. Next, we have Boom Squad, 1 mana warrior spell. Discover a lackey, mech, or dragon. This saw a little bit of fringe play in like a Highlander warrior deck in Standard for a little bit when people are trying to make Grand Lucky Eric work, which never really worked. And this card fell off pretty quickly and hasn't really seen any competitive play since, but Lackeys are good, mechs were good, and dragons are insane. I'll give it a C. It's, again, a playable card, just not really good enough to make any real meta list these days. Next, we have Bronze Explorer. It's a Paladin minion, 3 mana, 2/3 dragon, has lifesteal, Battlecry, Discover Dragon. Again, really good stuff, you know, getting a dragon, has lifesteal, okay curve play, but hasn't seen a ton of play outside of like pure Paladin, and a lot of pure Paladin lists, well, with the recent expansion, cut it entirely. There's just better options for pure cards because there's a lot of good stuff printed, and in Wild, this is basically never seen play. I'm going to give it a high C. It saw a little bit of play in pure Paladin, but really outside of that, this card isn't that good, and Dragon Paladin has never really been a thing, despite all the support it's had over the years. Next, we have Carrion Studies, Hunter Spell. Discover a Death Rattle minion, your next one costs 1 less. One of the study cards that really hasn't seen any ladder play. I've seen it a lot in Arena. It's pretty good in Arena, but in terms of like Standard, Wild, basically non-existent. It's not a bad card at all. Again, you're getting value, you're mana cheating. It's just the Death Rattle minion pool in Standard is not phenomenal. It's not great, so this card doesn't see a lot of play, but if there's more Death Rattle minions that are worth it, it'll become a lot better. So I'll give it a C. Definitely not bad whatsoever. It's just not at that point where you can really play it. Next, we have Chittering Tunneler, 3 mana, 3/3 beast for Warlock. Battlecry, discover a spell, deal damage to your hero equal to its cost. This card's bad. This card was pretty bad. You get 1 spell, you play an understated minion, and you damage yourself. And, you know, if you get a spell, you want a big AoE like Twisting Nether, you're taking 8. You can't do that. Yes, Warlock has healing. Yes, there's self-damaging synergies, but this card took it a little too far and never really saw any competitive play that I can recall. I mean, it was okay arena pick, but even there, you kind of killed yourself a lot of the time. I'm actually going to give this a high F, because I can never recall this seeing realistic competitive play, and the card just isn't that great. Doing that much damage yourself just for 1 spell just really wasn't worth it. Next, we have Chromatic Egg. It's a 5 mana 0/3, so unbelievably bad stats. Battlecry, secretly discover a dragon to hatch into, and then Death Rattle hatches. So you can discover Deathwing, and then you practice and you have a 12/12. That's a lot to work around just to get a 12/12 that's probably still not going to work out. This card is really bad and basically makes every random effect that like devolves into a 5-drop, evolves into a 5-drop, whatever, really much worse because this card's in the pool. This is unbelievably awful. It's a meme 100% of the time, and it's not even a good one. I'm giving it an F of the highest regard. Next, we have Cleric of Scales. It's a 1 mana 1/1 priest minion. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, discover a spell from your deck. This card is very popular right now in priest, especially obviously dragon priest. You have Cleric of Scales and Raise Dead. The synergy alone there is ridiculous. You Cleric of Scales, you Raise Dead, Cleric of Scales, Raise Dead. You know, you get a lot of value. And then, of course, you know, the dragon stuff is really easy to get going in Priest because you have the Studies card, which we'll get to in a second, and plus a lot of good dragons. Card's super good in Priest. They're really lacking card draw, especially in Standards, so it's very solid there. Hell, it even sees play in Wild. Super strong card. I won't give it an S, but man, it's getting to that territory where it's really strong. We'll give it an A for sure. Next, we have another Priest Discover card, Cloning Device. 1 mana, discover a copy of a minion in your opponent's deck. This used to be 2 mana, buffed to 1 mana, and it's still an F at 1. Yeah, it's not bad. Like, discovering a copy of a minion in your deck is just bad. I remember when I reviewed this card when it came out, I said it could be 0 mana, and then maybe it would be playable, but still probably wouldn't be. I said at 1 it would still be hot garbage, and I was correct. It's just 1 mana to get probably a useless card, or just it's just a bad card. You don't feel that bad sometimes discovering it, but most times you feel bad discovering it. It's a bad card. It's an F all the way. Next, we have Crystal Psalm Portal. It's a 2 mana Druid spell. Discover a Druid minion. If your hand has no minions, keep all 3. So you really wanted to play this in a spell-heavy deck. I remember early builds of Token Druid when this card came out ran Crystal Psalm Portal. I took lists from a former GM Puppet Jason. Had some success with it, but eventually it got cut. And I've never seen Crystal Sun Portal run ever since. I've never seen it see play in Wild. Because, yeah, just getting even 2 mana draw 3 is okay. But when you're getting 3 random Druid minions, they're just usually not impactful enough. If it was spells, this card would probably be insane. But minions are clunky. They're not as efficient as spells. And as a result, this card just only saw a little bit of play. I'll give it a low C. It's not an F, but yeah, it really hasn't popped up since its really early days. Next, we have Dark Peddler, one of the early strong Discover cards. It's a 2 mana 2/2 Warlock minion. Battlecry, discover a 1-cost card, And back in the day, when you didn't have when you had the class bonus, you would get Power Overwhelming, you would get Soulfire, you would get really good one-cost Warlock cards a lot. So this was a staple in Zoo, it was a staple in Reno Lock, it was in like every single Warlock deck for a long time. But then more powerful options were made, the Discover option was nerfed, and yeah, you don't really see Dark Peddler anymore. But it was a very good card, in a really good example for me of what Discover really was. What I really liked about it was that pool of random cards, but you had a pretty select amount, and your opponent could even try and play around, like maybe got too power overwhelming. So really like Dark Peddler. I'm gonna give it a B because it hasn't seen play in years, but at its peak it was definitely an S tier card. Really solid and well designed, I might add. Next we have Dark Possession Warlock spell, 1 mana, deal 2 damage to a friendly character, discover a demon. So this had self-damaging implications. You got demons, but overall this card pretty much never saw play. There was a tiny bit of experimentation with, like the spell stones, or just trying to get value with demons, but the average demon just isn't great. And having to damage a character is not always the best thing in the world. It could proc stuff, but overall it was never really worth it. I'm going to give this a high F. It's kind of that cloning device territory. It did have playability. It did have utility. So you know what? It's not an F. I'll give it a C. But yeah, just really, really not that great. Next we have Dark Prophecy. It's a 3 mana pre-spell. Discover a 2-cost minion, summon it, and give it +3 health. So this was only like playable kind of in combo priest because you would get a high health 2-drop, buff it up, go inner fire, all that stuff. But there's just better options. Didn't really see much play. And yeah, just not that great a card, but it was playable. It did pop up in those decks, so we'll give it a C. Next we have Demonic Studies, 1 mana spell for Warlock. Discover a demon, your next one costs 1 less. So this is the worst study card. Demons suck. The average demon is bad, especially there is no class discover bonus, so you discover a demon, it's probably some neutral garbage. And this card has seen 0 competitive play, even when decks like Zoolock have been competitive, even when you have cards like Gul'dan and Wild where you can resummon demons, this card is just bad. Even mana cheating out demons has not been worth it, so I'm going to give it an F. It has just seen no play. The demon pool is just not reliable whatsoever. Next we have Dendrologist, Druid, minion, 2 mana, 2/3, Battlecry. If you control Treant, discover spell. So obviously you played this in Treant Druid. Was it good there? Not for a very long time because Treant Druid really sucked. And this card, you know, it needed Treant Druid to be playable, to be good. But as a standalone card, it's a 2 mana, 2/3, discover spell. The second Treant Druid was playable. This guy was playable. And, you know, Treant Druid's fallen off yet again. It doesn't really see play anymore. But this card, as its own, is not too bad. I'll have to give it a C though. It's like that, you know, that Explorer territory of like a pretty good card, but again, not good enough on its own to really bump up anything. Next we have Draconic Studies, pre-spell, 1 mana, discover dragon, your next one costs 1 less. This card is insane in priest. I mean, dragons in themselves are just really good. Like, it's not like the demon card where there's a lot of bad demons. There are like barely any bad dragons. So you have the dragon synergies in priest, and you can cheat out dragons that are really good. You can get another Murazond, you can get Dragon Queen, you can get all these insane dragons. You enable your dragon synergies. This card is nuts. It's super good. I'm actually going to put it as an S tier card. Like, it's going to be in every priest deck in standard for the foreseeable future. And in Wild, you can see it pop up too. Like, it's just really good. It's a very, very strong card. Next, we have a rogue spell, Dragon's Hordes, 1 mana spell. Discover a legendary minion from another class, so that can be literally any class other than rogue. Get a legendary, and this card's good value. Like, you can get some ridiculous stuff. Like, this card can enable some really stupid stuff. Like, you can get like Bandersmash into something stupid. You can get your lackeys to be 4/4s for the rest of the game. You can get cards that just shouldn't be in rogue and do just ridiculous stuff. But it's a greed value card, but it's cheap. It's 1 mana, so it's seen a lot of play. You've seen it in Secret Rogue, like Highlander Rogue, Burgle Rogues, Quest Rogues. A lot of decks have run it. It's really solid. Like, I'm actually going to give it an A for how much play it's seen. In Wild, not so much, because Wild's not so much about value and greed. But Standard, you can get away with it. And it's just popped up in multiple archetypes, and it's just really solid. And also a really good discover option. Next, we have Draconic Operative, 5 mana, 5/6 priest minion. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, discover another card. Discover a card from your opponent's deck, copy of it. Ridiculous card. Premium stats, upside, discover another card from your opponent's deck could be just ridiculous. I remember back in the day when you would be in a mirror, you go operative into operative into operative into operative. Oh my god, secret agent coming through, just I've got PTSD ringing through my ears about it. One of my most hated cards of all time, and an incredibly powerful one at that. Still sees play in Wild from here and there. Super good. I cannot not give this an S. It's just way too good. I know it's not super meta in Wild right now, but it has been there off and on all the time, and it was just incredibly powerful in Standard during its entire run. Ridiculous card. So we have Emerald Explorer, 6 mana, 4/8 taunt minion for Druid and Battlecry Discover a Dragon. Super strong card. In playing Quest Druid, Malagos Druid, you have like just Dragon Druid, just any Druid deck that ran minions and like to ramp up for the most part would run it. Just like Mount Seller Druid wouldn't run it, but sometimes they would just to play like the ramp card with dragon stuff. And I mean, you're getting basically a premium statted taunt minion that discovers an insane card. This card is nutty, super strong, but again, I won't put it S tier. It's really close, honestly. But in Wild, has seen very little play outside of like Dragon Jade Druid, which I'm not convinced is even a good deck. And that's about it. But yeah, I'll give it a very high A. It has seen a ton of play, and you could very well justify as an S. I just want to put it a notch below that. I just don't think it's quite there. Next, we have Eternal Servitude. Pre-spell, discover a friendly minion that died this game, summon it. This card made a deck. This card basically made a deck happen. This in Shadow Essence, but yeah, Eternal Servitude, a staple in Resurrect Priest, Big Priest, still there to this day. Big Priest is not the juggernaut it used to be, but it's still a deck. It still can do work, and I mean, this card, you got to pick 3 insane minions to bring back for the most part, or just one a lot of the time, and it was just ridiculous. Get your Asheraj back, get your Obsidian statue back, get your Ragnaros, Lich King, whatever. Incredibly powerful, and then cards like Bargoth made it even more nutty. I'm giving it an S. This card in itself basically enabled an entire archetype, and there's not a heck of a lot of cards you can say that have done that. Next, we have Ethereal Conjurer. It's a mage minion. 5 mana, 6/3, Battlecry, discover a spell. Yeah, you used to have to pay 5 mana for a really bad statted minion to discover a mage spell. Not quite the one thief we have in Standard today. And this card didn't see much meta play. Saw a little bit in some greedy value mages, but a 5 mana card to get one spell, even in like Quest Mage back in the day where it was hard to generate spells, you still couldn't afford to run this. You were like Kabbalah's Tome and bust. So yeah, I'm going to give this a very low C. Did see a little bit of play, I'll give it that, but yeah, the stats were really bad, not really worth it. Did mention earlier there was one card that doesn't technically discover a card, but I'm putting it on the list as an honorable mention, is Explore Ungoro. It's a 2 mana warrior spell, and you replace your decks with copies of Discover a Card, and those cards were 1 mana, and they just say, Discover a Card. Was this card ever good? No. It's a meme. You played it if you wanted to play random stuff, but you're basically throwing the game most of the time, because 1 mana Discover Card isn't great, and again, with the whole class bonus thing being on, it's even worse. The main meme that made this card any bit playable was a Togwoggle deck, where you would fill your opponent's deck with, you'd play Togwoggle, you play Explore Ungoro, force your opponent to flip decks, and then you geist their Discover cards and kill them in Fatigue. That's like the one playable thing that ever really happened, and that was not a playable deck whatsoever. It was a meme, but for that, I'll give it an honorary low C, not quite an F, because that meme was damn solid. Next, we have Finders Keepers, 1 mana Shaman spell, discover a card with Overload, Overload 1. So back in the day, this could discover itself. And yeah, this card never really was meta playable. It was an okay arena pick, but I can never recall a time where this saw real ladder play. I mean, overloading for one mana, just brutal. Like, just brutal. And then the card you got overloaded you. And like, overload synergies typically are like very rare to work, and when they work, they have to be really good. And this wasn't one of them, so I'm gonna have to give it an F. It just didn't really ever make the cut. So we have Fire Tree Witch Doctor, 2 mana 2/2 neutral minion, Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, discover spell. Solid minion. Saw play in Dragon Priest. Saw play in like Dragon Warrior, Dragon Mage. You know, if you ran dragons, it wasn't bad to get an extra spell. And saw a lot of decent play. It's nothing exciting. It's just, you know, whatever. I'll give it a very high B. Not quite at the A tier level where you could just basically run it and it was really good. It was just a solid option. Why not? Next we have Font of Power, Mage spell. Discover Mage minion. If your deck has no minions, keep all 3. So yeah, this was in Minionless Mage, Spell Mage, whatever you want to call it. Really fun deck. Saw a lot of play early on in its run when it came out. during the Ashes of Outland, hasn't seen a heck of a lot since. And since then, it's basically, you get this off Evocation, you get this off Magic Trick, you get this randomly, and it's not a bad card, but again, not very competitive. I'll give it a high C for how popular Spellmage was, and how big a part of the deck this card was, but overall, just not realistically competitive. Next, we have Free from Amber, Pre-Spell, discover a minion that costs 8 more, summon it. This card was basically only staple in Spiteful Priest because you cheated out an 8-drop. Or you cheated out the spell itself with, like, the Archivist card. Like, it just was never that good, but it's okay. So we'll give it a high C. Like, again, you ran this card to make other cards good. This card itself was not phenomenal. Getting an 8-cost card was alright, and now, again, with the Discover bonus gone, you don't even reliably get, like, Obsidian Statue anymore. It's just kind of not there anymore, so we're going to give it a C. But, you know, it had its time for sure. We have Frightened Flunky, Warrior Minion, 2-mana 2/2 Taunt, Battlecry, Discover Taunt Minion. This was really good in, like, that Control Taunt Warrior for a little bit, and fell off after that. You don't see play a lot, except for, like, in Wild, where you have Quest Warrior, because, well, getting Taunt Minions over and over there is pretty good, but outside of that, doesn't see a heck of a lot of play anymore. But I'll give it a low B. It's, you know, it's seen a lot of play in a lot of different decks, and still pops up here and there, even in Wild today. Next, we have Golden Scarab. It's a 3-mana 2/2 Battlecry. Discover a 4-cost card. It's neutral. It's a beast. You have never seen this in a ladder deck for a reason. The Discover bonus was long gone before this card, I think, even came into the game. And yeah, you just can't really rely on crappy 4-cost cards and play a 3-mana 2/2 in 2020. So this card is an F tier all the way. Just really bad. Even in Arena, it feels bad. We have Gorillabot, a 3 to 4-mana 3/4 mech. Battlecry, if you control another mech, discover a mech. Saw a little bit of play in various mech decks, but overall, 4-mana 3/4, add 1 mech to your hand was never quite good enough. But not unplayable, not terrible. I'll give it a low C, but again, nothing too remarkable. We have Grifta, 4-mana 4/5, premium statted neutral legendary minion. Battlecry, discover 2 cards, give 1 to your opponent at random. So you can, like, mill your opponent. You could do stupid stuff. Hope to, like, get a good card and give your opponent a bad one. But it's very high RNG, highly unreliable to use this card in a good way. I'm going to have to give it an F. It's never been competitive at all. But it's a cool meme card. I'll give it that. But again, I can't even think of a good meme deck that ever really popped up, unlike Exploring Goros. So sorry, Grifta. Sorry, you're an F in my books, but you're kind of neat. Next, we have Grime Street Informant. This was a tri-class card for Paladin, Warrior, and Hunter. Is a 2-mana 1/1 Battlecry. Discover a Hunter, Paladin, and Warrior card. Never saw much play. Like, this card, it's a 2-mana 1/1. The effect, like, the stats are bad, and discovering the Hunter, Paladin, Warrior card just never really proved to be worth it in any of these classes. This was strictly an Arena card from all that I could ever remember. I never remember it coming up in a ladder deck. But again, not horrendously bad or anything. I'll put it in that C range where you could get some decent stuff, but again, you really didn't want to put that into your ladder deck. Next, we have a Rogue Minion, Gurubashi Hypeman. It's a 7-mana 5/7 Battlecry. Discover a 1/1 copy of a Battlecry minion. It costs 1. So this is like a greed card you could try in Rogue, except it's 7 mana, and Rogue can do could pretty much do way greedier stuff for way cheaper. And the discovery option is not reliable to get something you might be able to, you know, utilize well. It just never really was worth it. And this never saw any realistic competitive play. I can't even think of solid memes, although I'm sure there's some out there. I know Dane loves his Rogue memes, so Dane probably came up with something, but for me, it just never panned out for Rogue. I've never really seen it see play. Gotta give it an F. Even the effect itself is not that great for an understated body. Next, we have Hallucination, 1-mana Rogue spell. Discover a card from your opponent's class. This saw a good amount of play when it came out, like Miracle Rogue. It was a cheap spell. You could use with Auctioneer. You could sometimes high roll an insane card from your opponent's class, like you're facing Mage and you got Jaina. It was something pretty stupid, ridiculous. That could happen. Hasn't really seen play historically. I mean, lackeys just do this stuff way better, right? You get a 1/1 plus cards. Like, it's crazy how the game has evolved. But yeah, back in the day, this was playable. Not really anymore, outside of maybe you're playing like a Burgle Rogue in Wild, and maybe this makes it worth it. But even then, there's better options these days. But for its play back in the day, for its flavor, I gotta give it a C. It'd be unfair to give it a B over some of these cards. It's fallen off so much, but it was playable for a little amount of time back in the day. Next, we have Haunting Visions, 3-mana Shaman spell. The next spell you cast this turn costs 3 less. Discover a spell. So this saw play in like Spirit of the Frog decks. You'd play this and then your next spell would cost maybe 0 and you would, you know, draw and do stuff like that. It also saw play in like some value control Shaman decks and was pretty good. Not bad. Doesn't see a heck of a lot of play these days, but it still pops up in lists here and there. Getting value, getting mana cheat, all around. It was a solid card. I'll give it a very low B. Saw play in a multiple archetypes for Shaman. We have Hench Clan Burglar. It's a 4-mana 4/3 pirate for Rogue. Battlecry, discover a spell from another class. Warrior gets this more often than any other class now when they get the random pirates, but this did see a good amount of play in Rogue when it came out, whether it be the new Quest Rogue, Burgle Rogues, just value Rogues in general. But again, better options have popped up since. It's not a particularly bad card, but it's kind of in that territory where you just don't hard run Hench Clan Burglar pretty much at all anymore. Even the Highlander Rogue decks have kind of stayed away from it. There's just better options, but it was a very solid card for a little bit. I'll give it a C. Just wasn't as prolific as some of these B-star cards. Next, we have Hydrologist Paladin Murloc. 2-mana 2/2 Battlecry. Discover a secret. This card was insanely good for a very long time. Every Murloc Paladin deck ran it outside of anything Paladin because you don't want to resurrect this. But yeah, getting a secret was good. You got Noble Sacrifice. You could get away Kodo, get it back to your hand. Avenge, all sorts of good stuff, and still sees play Murloc Paladin today. Very powerful card. Is it S tier? I don't think it's quite S tier, but it's really close. It's kind of in that Explorer territory where it's just seen play for such a long time, but I can't quite give it that S tier rating. It's just really close. Very, very strong Discover card. Next we have I Know a Guy. It's a 1-mana warrior spell. Discover a taunt minion. So yeah, I've said before that 1 mana get 1 minion is just typically not good enough, and this is another example of it. This card, even though with all the taunt synergies that Warrior has had, has just been a bad option. I've seen it pop up in the odd like Quest Warrior list, and even there it feels awful. I'm not going to give it an F, but it's super freaking close. But the reason I'm not giving an F is because I keep seeing it pop up in those Quest Warrior lists, and if it keeps popping up there, I just feel like if it's in a ladder deck, it's not quite an F, but really close. Next, we have Instructor Fireheart. This is a Shaman Legendary. It's a 3-mana 3/3 Battlecry. Discover a spell that costs 1 or more. If you play it this turn, repeat this effect. So if you get any spell that's 1 or more, you keep discovering more, and this can chain a lot. Shaman's in a really bad spot in Standard, and in Wild it's set of like Even Shaman or Big Shaman, and this card doesn't fit into any of those archetypes. But this card is insane. It's so good. And the second any deck that's decent can be playable, the Instructor Fireheart will be insane. This card is ridiculously powerful. Discovering a spell we all know is really good. Repeating that effect over and over can be insane. I'm giving it an A. Like, I know this card doesn't see play, like, at all right now, but it is so solid. Trust me, one day this card will probably be like that S tier card, but I'm giving it an A. It's that strong on its own. I'm breaking kind of my own rules here that it's got to be in a playable archetype, all that. I don't care. It's that good. It's a ridiculously strong card. Next, we have Ivory Knight, Paladin Minion, 6-mana 4/4. Battlecry, discover spell, restore health to your hero equal to its cost. So you got, like, you play this in anything Paladin, you got another anything, and you heal for 10. Insane, right? Well, overall, Paladin spells, always on the cheap. There's so many secrets, there's so many cheap stuff. Kind of bad to get that heal, and then, like, 6-mana 4/4 itself wasn't great, but it saw play. There's, like, not the greatest healing options a lot of the time. Again, discover a spell can be very powerful. It's just, in Paladin, it wasn't the most reliable card in the world. And this hasn't seen play in years. Like, it saw play when it came out, and that was about it. I'll give it a C, a pretty low one at that, but it saw its play. It did some good stuff, but yeah, Paladin spells were reliably a little more expensive, and a little bit more tempo-based. This card would have been pretty insane. Next, we have Jeweled Scarab, 2-mana 1/1, Battlecry, discover a 3-cost card. Unlike the 3-mana 2/2 equivalent that is a 4-cost card, this card actually saw play. It had the Discover bonus back then with the class stuff, so, and 3-cost cards could be really good, especially in like Hunter, where this was a beast, and in Hunter you could get like Kill Command, Animal Companion, Eagle Horn Bow, a lot of 3-cost cards that are really good to curve into. So Jeweled Scarab saw a decent amount of play, saw play in multiple classes. This was one of the earliest Discover cards that came out during League of Explorers, so yeah, it popped up. It's, again, I like the design of it, but again, it would never see play today, just like even like the 3-mana 2/2, even it had the Discover bonus, it still wouldn't see play. I'll give it a C, but it definitely had its run. It was definitely a meta card for a bit, and I liked it quite a bit, but yeah, the game has changed a lot since its time. Next, we have Journey Below. This is a rogue spell, 1 mana, discover a Death Rattle card. Unlike discovering a class legendary, discovering a Death Rattle card, yeah, not so good. One mana for 1 minion, just not good enough unless it's got some insane upside like a legendary minion, and this just never really saw any play. It's in that Finders Keepers territory. You could kind of play it, maybe, but never really popped up in any competitive deck. Next, we have Cabal Courier. This was a tri-class card for Priest, Mage, and Warlock. It was 3 mana, 2/2, discover a Mage, Priest, or Warlock card. This saw a lot of play. This saw play in Priest. It saw play in Mage. Warlock, not so much, but like Highlander Priest ran it for value. And like there was a deck called Discover Mage or Gunther Mage that ran it for more value. You could get like board clears, Jaina's, Pyroblast, whatever. Really powerful card. Doesn't see much play today, although you'd be surprised, I still see people play it every once in a while in Highlander decks, probably because it's such a nostalgic favorite for how good it used to be, and I will give it an honorary low B. I have seen it see play this year, believe it or not, and you know, it saw a lot of play for a long time in multiple archetypes, and just did a lot of good stuff, so I will give it that honorary B. So we have Kalagos, Mage, Dragon, 10 mana, 4/12. Your first spell each turn costs 0 battle cry, discover spell. Incredibly powerful minion. Getting this and playing like a puzzle box, power creation, even Conjurer's Calling, getting 2 10-drops is incredibly powerful. Activates dragon synergies. Just don't coin it. That's a bad play. It's your first spell. But yeah, it's staple in pretty much every Highlander Mage deck ever. There was like a Scam Mage deck where you would play this and just all the dragons, all the mana cheat stuff. Incredibly powerful dragon. It's just been super meta in a lot of decks and just does a lot of good stuff. I'm giving it an S. Super god tier dragon discover minion for sure. Next we have Lotus Agents, another tri-class discover card, and it was for Druid, Rogue, or Shaman, and you would discover a Druid, Rogue, or Shaman card. And yeah, the stats for this, not great. The effect, not great. The only time I think I saw remember it seeing play was a little bit in Druid for some reason. The Druid ran it for a little bit of value, but overall, not the greatest of the tri-class discover options, but not the worst. I think Grimes Cheat was the only one that really didn't see play. This saw super fringe play, but it did see play. I will give it a C, just like Grimes Cheat, but rate it just slightly above. But yeah, 5 mana, 5/3 for 1 card, just even back then, didn't really make the cut. Next we have Madame Lazul, Priest, legendary, 3 mana, 3/2, battle card, discover copy of a card in your opponent's hand. Still sees play in some greedy value Priest today in both standard and wild. Just getting 3 mana, 3/2 that not only gives you typically a high value card because you get to pick it from your opponent's hand. Your opponent typically isn't running trash, but it gives you some information as well, knowing what your opponent's going to do. Overall, just very solid, very good minion for Priest. And the fact that a 3 mana, 3/2 sees play here and there in wild should tell you it's pretty solid. I'm going to give it an A. Very good Priest legendary minion, and also very frustrating. Who the hell likes to face that? Next, we have Magic Trick, 1 mana Mage spell. Discover a spell that costs 3 or less. This card is busted. You can get Evocation. You used to be able to get Conjurer's Calling off of this. Insanely good with Sorcerer's Apprentice. Often costs 0 mana, which is powerful. And, you know, in Quest Mage, it's a staple. Small Spell Mage, Tempo Mage, it's a staple. Well, you can run it in Highlander decks. It's just ridiculously good. It's in almost every Mage deck. It's an S. Absolutely one of the most busted Discover cards ever made. Next, we have Malygos, Aspect of Magic, 5 mana, 2/8 dragon for a Mage. It's a legendary battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, discover an upgraded Mage spell. Won't go over them all, but I'll show them in a graphic over here. But yeah, it discovers an upgraded Mage spell if you're holding a dragon, and can be insanely good. Standouts are like, you know, Polymorph for 1 mana. You can draw a bunch of cards, get a 1 mana Frost Nova, lock your opponent out. Staple mostly in Highlander decks. You play it with your Kalagos and all that. Super strong. I won't put it at the Kalagos level because I don't think it's at the Kalagos level. Kalagos can see play while Malygos could like get cut realistically, but it's super strong. Absolutely high A tier minion. The spells are just incredibly flexible. The body's decent. Hell, it sticks for Conj a lot of the time. Just very good. Next, we have a Hunter spell, Mark Shot. Deal 4 damage to minion, discover spell. This card saw a lot of play when it came out. There's a lot of spell-centric Hunter decks, but it's fallen out in recent times. Doesn't see a ton of play, but it's really good. And it does see play. It does pop up here and there. I'll give it a B. It's 4 mana, deal 4, discover a spell. That's just decent. It's just decent overall. Next we have Marsh Spawn, 3 mana, 3/4 elemental for Shaman. Battlecry if you cast a spell last turn, discover spell. Premium stats, upside, tribe, discover spell. Is that great? I mean, Shaman sucks. Is it this card's fault? No, it's a pretty good card. It just doesn't see a heck of a lot of play. It's not like the Instructor Fireheart or whatever. It's not at that level, but I'll give it a B. It's at that mark shot territory. It's a good minion. It just doesn't see that much play. Next, we have Master's Call. This is a hunter spell. Discover a minion in your deck, but if all 3 are beasts, draw them also. This was really good back in the day when you just ran beasts. You draw 3 for 3. Insane. That deck was like tier 1 for a very long time. And this card has seen play in decks that just use it as a discover card. You would run like Barnes Yashiraj, you would always get Barnes off of this into 4. That was pretty insane. Or just play it in like a Highlander deck and just ensure that you got like Reno or Zephyrus, Brand, something crazy like that. This card's insane. It's kind of fallen off in Wild, but it was so unbelievably good in Standard and still pops up in Wild. I'm giving it an honorary S. Probably shouldn't. It probably should be an A, but man, this card was just so broken for so long that I feel like I have to give it that honorary mark. Next we have Messenger Raven, 3 mana, 3/2 Mage minion, Battlecry, discover a Mage minion. The stats aren't great. The minion pool for Mage wasn't that impactful until recently, where you have like Jandis, things like that, but it still does not like almost ever see play in Mage. So I'll go to that low C in this variance of a range. It's an okay value option, but overall not worth it in your deck. You have Museum Curator, 2 mana, 1/2 Priest minion. Again, one of the first discover cards. You discover a Death Rattle card. This saw a lot of play for a long time in Priest because, well, Death Rattle cards are good. Value is good, and there's not a lot of value back in the day. It's hard to get value like this, and it could get a lot of good stuff like Cairn or whatever. It's just a solid card that hasn't seen play in like Wild in years. So I'll give it a high C for that. But yeah, it was a meta card for quite some time. Next we have Myra Rotspring, 5 mana, 4/2 legendary rogue minion. Terrible stats, but you got to discover at a battle card, discover Death Rattle minion, and also gain its Death Rattle. This card was garbage. It's never saw competitive play. It was barely even a meme. Like the discover cards you get, like the Death Rattle cards you get in Rogue, just were never that great. And it's just bad body. It's just so weak. It's just so weak. Rogue could always do better stuff than this. So we'll give it an F. We have Nature Studies, 1 mana Druid spell, discover a spell. Your next one costs 1 less. Yeah, I mean, this card's really good in Druid for obvious reasons. You can cheat out your ramp. You can chain it with like Mount Seller. This has seen play, a lot of play in Standard and Wild today. Incredibly powerful. I mean, sometimes you don't even get the best spell in the world, but you're cheating Overgrowth out a turn earlier. You're cheating Guardian Animals out a turn earlier. It's incredibly good. I'll give it an S. It's not, I think it's a little bit weaker at now than the Dragon card, but for a while it was stronger, but that's mainly because of the nerf slightly. Nether Spite Historian, neutral minion, 2 mana, 1/3. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, discover dragon. This was really good in Priest. You could get Operative and Operative or Dustbreaker, all of that. Other dragon decks ran it for sure, but Priest was the standout. Not so great now with the discover rules change, but still not the worst card in the world. I'll give it a B. It was so prolific for such a long time in Standard Wild that I can't give it anything less. We have Netherwalker, the only Demon Hunter discover card. It's 2 mana, 2/2, Battlecry, discover a demon. This has seen very limited play, mainly in like Highlander Demon Hunter, and just isn't really worth running. But I'll give it a low C. It's kind of in that range of like, it's okay, but not, terrible. We have 9 lives, 3 mana Hunter spell, discover a friendly Death Rattle minion that died this game, trigger its Death Rattle. So this is good with like the mech stuff. You could get like Whelps back, you could get Spider Bomb back, you could play this in Wild and do it with like Sylvanas stuff. This was a greed option in certain Hunter decks, but never really was that meta in either format, but was a decent greed option. I'll give it a high C. This card was versatile, it was value, and pretty cool in N'Zoth decks for sure in Wild. So we have a Mega Assembly, 1 mana warrior spell, discover a mech. If you have 10 mana crystals, keep all 3 cards. So yeah, you could get 1 mana draw 3 as you had 10 mana crystals. Really good until the discover effect got nerfed, and then the mechs became random crap because the average neutral mech is just terrible. But this card was insanely good in the old Dr. Boom Warrior. It was basically an A tier card, but now it's been bumped down all the way to C. Like, you just never see this card see play anymore because it just isn't good enough. It got nerfed so hard by that discover bonus being taken away. Next we have Power Creation, 8 mana Mage spell, discover a 6-cost minion, summon 2 copies of it. Prolific card with Total and Pilgrim, cheating it out. getting it off of like Caligos. You typically didn't love hard running this card unless you were cheating it out, but even playing it for 8 is not the worst thing in the world. It's popped up in a number of decks, and I'll give it a low A. It's just really solid. 6 drops are pretty good. There's a lot of taunts, there's healing options, and it just never feels that bad to get a Power of Creation. Next we have Primal Fin Lookout, 3-mana 3/2 Murloc. Battlecry, if you control another Murloc, discover Murloc. Saw it played in some Murloc decks, pops up in some here or there, mostly known for Battlegrounds these days, but again, not the worst card in the world. Slightly better than like a Gorilla Bot, so put it in the more higher of C territories, but again, not something you really hard run in most Murloc decks. We have Primordial Explorer, 3-mana 2/3 Hunter Dragon, has Poisonous, and Battlecry Discover Dragon. Really good minion. Like, unlike the Lifesteal one or the Spell Damage one for Mage, it just doesn't, it's seen play in like a ton of Hunter decks. The Poisonous is a big deal. You can't ignore a Poisonous minion, and the Dragon pool and the Dragon minions in Hunter are just insane and enabling like a Rottnest Drake. Very powerful. You have the weapon support. Really good minion. I'm going to give it a very high A. Solid, all-around, ridiculous Dragon Discover card in Hunter. Next we have Primordial Glyph, 2-mana 2/2 Discover spell, reduce its cost by 2. It's a mage spell. Staple in Quest Mage until recently. Some people have caught it, but it's been in Tempo Mage, Highlander Mage, like Random Mage, all sorts of mages throughout the days, throughout Standard and Wild. It's an S tier card. Getting that mana cheat, paying that mana cheat on a spell for future, it's just so good. The flexibility, incredibly powerful card. And it used to be able to chain itself, activate the quest almost on its own. Super powerful card. Next we have Primordial Studies, 1-mana mage card. Discover spell damage, meaning your next one costs 1 less. Today this card is absolutely insane. And a week from now, I don't know if it will be, but right now this can discover you more mage primes, which are busted. And you know, you can get other good stuff like Azure Explorer, the whatever, other spell damage minions. But the fact that this consistently cheats out like primes or gets you a spell damage minion to make your cram session work is just incredibly powerful, extremely meta in Standard, sees a bit of play in Wild. I gotta give it an S. It's another study card that's incredibly powerful, giving that spell damage consistency, getting you primes, ridiculous, but we'll see how it's effective when the prime might not be quite good enough anymore. Next we have Raven Idol, 1-mana Druid spell. Choose one, discover a minion or discover a spell. This was a staple in Druid for a long time when it was introduced. Has fallen out of favor for a long time. It's better options for value in Druid, but yeah, this is basically back in the day 1-mana discover spell. Sometimes you want minion, but overall it was discover spell. Yeah, you don't really see it ever in Standard or in Wild anymore, even with like the quests where you get to double up. It's just not good enough. But it did see a lot of play. I'll give it a low B for its like meta importance for such a long time. But yeah, it's definitely fallen off quite a bit. Next we have Renew, Pre-Spell, 1-mana, restore 3 health, discover a spell. What priest deck doesn't run this card? It's just insane. You get decent healing and you get to discover a spell. Like that's just, it's super flexible, it's super good. You have healing synergies. I mean, this is a no-brainer. This is S. It's like Magic Trick good. Probably better than Magic Trick. It's just ridiculously strong. S tier all the way. We have a Hunter spell, Secret Plan. 1-mana, discover a secret. Saw a tiny bit of play in Secret Hunter. Wasn't that great there, and that's about it. We'll give it a C. Not much to talk about. You get a secret for 1 mana. You have Servant of Calamos, neutral minion, 5-mana 4/5 elemental. Battlecry. If you played an elemental last turn, discover an elemental. Saw a little bit of play in like elemental Shaman. I remember Hot Form playing this back in the day. And that deck was okay, but overall, again, kind of one of those underwhelming discover a thing for an understated minion. Just wasn't super meta, but not terrible. Next, we have Shadow Jeweler Hanar, Rogue Legendary Minion, 2-mana 1/4. After you play a secret, discover a secret from another class. This can go infinitely because you keep just chaining secret into secret until you have like 6 up and then you can no longer play it. This card is ridiculous. It used to be a 1/5, it's a 1/4. It's still infinite value. It basically makes Secret Rogue a deck that's super powerful in Standard. He doesn't see a lot of play in Wild, but regardless, I'm still giving an S. This card is just infinite value on a stick. It's ridiculously powerful. Don't think 2-drop should be that strong, but it is, and there you go. Next, we have Shadow Visions, Pre-Spell, 2-mana, discover a copy of a spell in your deck. Again, what Pre-Spell deck doesn't run this? There's Standard ones that don't run it, because they can't. If they could, they would. Getting the flexibility of getting a copy of a spell from your deck, you're not even depleting your deck of that. So you can have like 4 Psychic Screams in a game, or Divine Spirits, or whatever. This card is just ridiculous. 2 mana like super flexible. Just you can get exactly what you need whenever you want it, unless you get unlucky on your discover options, of course. Just yeah, insane. I'll put it above Renew. It's better than Renew. It's that freaking good. Next we have Sinister Deal, 1 mana spell for Warlock, discover a lackey. Not the worst one of these cards that you only get one thing, because well, lackeys are broken, they can discover other stuff, and it has like insane synergy with like Plague of Flames and other cards like that. Saw play in standard like lackey Warlock, like lackey Zoo Warlock, and in Wild and Darkest Hour Warlock, because you couldn't run minions. This would get you a minion to use your Plague of Flames. So overall, more flexible than you think. I give it a low B. It's seen play in multiple archetypes, so I gotta give it credit. Next, we have the 2 Finleys. First, starting off with Sir Finley Merkelton, the original. 1 mana, 1/3 Murloc, battlecry, discover a new basic hero power. This is neutral. It's S tier. We've talked about this card a lot in tier lists. We all know it's insane. One of the best cards in Hearthstone history. I'll actually put it like near the top of the tier of S. Discovering a new hero power is great, whether you're an aggro deck, getting a Hunter hero power, life tap, or just Grizzle Wizarding somebody and Sir Finley them at the same time, stealing their hero power. Unbelievably good. What more can you say? And then we have Sir Finley of the Sands, 2 mana Murloc for Paladin. It's 2 mana 2/3 battlecry if your deck has no duplicates. Discover an upgraded hero power. Not quite as good as the original Sir Finley, although technically the battlecry is better. It's just Highlander Paladin has never been that great. It's not been that bad, but not that great. And this card's a good part of it. Getting an upgraded hero power on curve is very good. So I'll give it a B, but it's never been that high of a tier of a deck. But the card itself is pretty solid. I just can't really put it at the higher level because that deck is just never been that fantastic. Next we have Steward of Scrolls, 5 mana 4/4 elemental, spell damage +1, battlecry, discover a spell. You get this a lot off of Primordial Studies. You don't really ever hard run this, but in itself is not a bad card. It's one of those, you know, C cards. It's not bad, but not terrible. Next, we have Stitch Tracker, 3 mana 2/2 Hunter minion, battlecry, discover a copy of a minion in your deck. Again, it's a copy, so you don't deplete your deck of this. And it's really good in Highlander Hunter, Reno Hunter, whatever you want to call it. Getting another Reno, getting another Brand, getting Zephyrus, really solid. And because it's discover a copy of a minion, you're more likely to get it. You're not going to see hero cards or spells mixing that up, so really solid. This card still sees play today, and it's seen play in other archetypes as well. I'll give it an A. It's a really solid Hunter minion for sure. We have Stolen Steel, 2 mana rogue spell. Discover a weapon from another class. This is garbage. Maybe if it equipped it'd be good, but that'd probably be breaking the game. But in itself, I don't think I've ever seen this hard run. It's an F. I mean, 2 mana just to get a weapon, it's just not good enough. Next, we have Stonehill Defender, 3 mana 1/4 taunt, battlecry, discover a taunt minion. Probably the hardest hit card during the discover bonus nerf, where you would get Tarim or Tyrion the Paladin all the time, and now you get garbage. This card sees no play anymore, but it was one of the most busted discover cards for a very long time. You'll see it play maybe in Quest Warrior now because you just want taunt minions, but other than that, it's just not good anymore, and that's pretty crazy considering it used to be S tier, but now it's a measly C. Next, we have the Rune Spear, 8 mana 3/3 Shaman weapon. After your hero attacks, discover a spell and cast it with random targets. Shaman spell sucks. This weapon sucks. Everything about this weapon sucks, except for the meme potential of it, but overall, card's bad. Never been realistic. I know I'll get some people upset in the comments. The Rune Spear is great. No, it's not, but it's a solid meme, but it's not a solid enough meme to get it out of that F range. Next, we have Tomb Spider, 4 mana 3/3 battlecry, discover a beast. Again, original discover card. Even back then, didn't see a heck of a lot of play. Some people ran it like value decks for a little bit, but it fell off within a few weeks and never popped up again. It's even more meh than these guys, considering a beast is just on average not great. I'm gonna give it a high F, despite the fact it just saw experimentation with every discover card did back then. It's just not good. We have Tolarn Pilgrim, 8 mana 5/5 battlecry, discover a spell in your deck and cast it with random targets. This card has gone through an interesting history, just recently getting nerfed. Could go infinite with the old Potion of Illusion. Before that was just really solid, cheating out like a Power of Creation or Deep Freeze or Luna's Pocket Galaxy, a box. It's been a staple in Highlander decks pretty much always. It still sees play. The nerf didn't really affect that part of it, and for that reason, I'm going to give it a very high A. This card is just very good at cheating out stuff, doing good things, and has been a staple in multiple archetypes, but not quite S tier. Now we have Tolar and Primalist, not quite as good. 8 mana 5/4. Battlecry, discover a spell and cast it with random targets. Yeah, this card was super unreliable, kind of garbage. Absolute, no, it's just garbage. You could take an arena and sometimes it would be okay, but this was never a ladder card. It's an F, but kind of, you know, whatever. It's a meme, I guess. We have Transfer Student. So on one map, it has 2 mana 2/2. Battlecry, discover a dragon. Transfer Student saw a little bit of play when it came in as a free card. Sees fringe play here and there. I'll give it a C, but technically it's a Discover card because one of its map options is Discover. Next we have Twisted Knowledge, Warlock card. 2 mana, discover 2 Warlock cards. Not bad, not great. You don't ever really run this. Warlock typically doesn't have problem getting cards and doesn't really need this value, but again, it's not the worst thing in the world, so we'll give it a C. We have Volpura Scoundrel, 3 mana 2/3 neutral option. Minion, Battlecry, discover a spell, or pick a mystery choice. So you got 3 options to spell. Mystery choice would just be a random spell, period. I was really good in Demon Hunter and Ashes, got worse as more spells were introduced, but we've seen it see play in Priest, Warrior, Mage, a lot of decks, but it's never felt that great. It's just good. It's just solid. I'll give it a B. Actually, I have to give it a low A. It's popped up in way too many decks, but yeah, it's just getting that spell option is solid, and sometimes that mystery choice can be the right one. Next, we have Wand Thief, Mage Rogue, dual class minion, 1 mana 1/2 combo. Discover a mage spell. This is S tier, absolutely busted card. It's in pretty much every Mage and Rogue deck, period, because, well, you saw a 5 mana 6/3 discover a mage spell is pretty good. It's decent. 1 mana 1/2, yeah, that's broken, and mage spells have never been better. Can get evocation, can get just some of the most broken, stupid things. It's S tier. Don't need to say much more than that. We have Waxmancy Rogue spell. 2 mana, discover a Battlecry minion, reduce its cost by 2. It saw a little bit of play in like Highlander Rogue, some value rogues. It's okay, not great. Getting the mana cheat on the Battlecry can be okay. But overall, it's just kind of in that middle lane messy territory. And lastly, we have Worthy Expedition, 1 mana Druid spell. Discover, choose 1 card. One of the more limited choose 1 or discover cards, because there's not that many choose 1 cards, and most of them are pretty good, and it was really good in Quest Druid, still is today, and that's about the only deck it's good in. So I'll give it a B for that. It hasn't popped up in a lot of decks. Quest Druid has fallen off quite a bit, but it's a really solid addition to the deck, but even got cut sometimes. Some people just didn't find it was worth it. And there you have it. We have every single Discover card in Hearthstone history rated from tier S to F. Let me know in the comments below what tier list you guys would like to see. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day. Stay salty, my friends.